Everyone, welcome back to Breslov Efrat here at Shira David, Baruch Hashem, week of Purim. Baruch Hashem. Okay. We learned so many things about the Purim already, Baruch Hashem, in Hilchos Tzitzis. Rav Nosson tied it all together, right? And today we're going to go on. Does anyone have any questions of what we learned before? Anyone discuss anything before we start?
We'll have questions.
You'll have questions.
Any salient points that you could say over about Purim?
Mm-hmm.
Can I ask you just a quick repetition of any?
Sure. So we're talking a lot about a yayin, wine, right? And the idea of wine, and wine has many different properties to it, right? So a lot of times people drink wine and they wind up spewing, throwing up, right? And then sometimes people drink wine and they get to a very elevated state, right? You can. If you drink wine if you open your mind and you're thinking in the right way, you're masakin, you're koyach hamadama. We're learning about this koyach hamadama, the imagination, right? So if you can work on that and recognizing Hashem in everything, so then what you do is you wind up causing the other side to spew, the left side. All the kedusha he took in, all the stuff he took in, he has to give it back. All right, when we drink wine. Something will wind up throwing up when we drink wine. The question is who and what, okay? And then we learned this beautiful idea of Sari Meinu was taken into the house of Paroi. Sari Meinu was taken into the palace of Avimelech, right? Remember that story, right? Sari Meinu was taken into the house of Paroi and Avimelech. Each one was for a night, very short, very, very short. And what was Paroi and what was Avimelech trying to do? They were trying to hit the Zuma into Sari Meinu. It was an extension of what the Nachash Kadmoni did to Chava. Okay. But Sari Meinu was she was a big tzedekes, and she was able to overpower them, and she caused them to have to give back the kedusha rather than them putting the tumah into her. They had to give back. What's the raya to that? Each time Avraham Avinu acquired a lot of money. He got a lot of money. Money, the Rebbe teaches, is associated also with kedusha, right? Mm. Then we said Esther Amalka was taken into the palace also. But she had to stay in the palace for a long time. Years. Why? Why she was there for years, and why was Sari Meinu only there for a night? So the answer is very simple, because Sari Meinu at that time didn't have too much work to do. She was able to accomplish what she had to do in a short time, right? As far as the other side, to extract back all of the things that was taken. But in the time of Esther Amalka, all of Klal Yisrael was really a chayav kliya. We were all chayav destruction. Why? Because either in the time of Nebuchadnezzar we were involved with Avodah Zara, right? We were because of he forced us, or whatever the case was, or we went to and we were nene from Sudas Achashverosh. And what was the problem with being nene from Sudas Achashverosh? So I'll just tell you a side thing. It's actually brought in the Kavayosha. It's an amazing idea. Anytime you go to a goyim like to have Jews over for a suda. They like that, and many times they'll tell you that we'll have kosher wine, and we'll have kosher food. So the Zoya, it's brought down in the Kisvei Ari. Stay away from that. Don't get involved in that. What are they really trying to do? They're trying to disconnect you from the side of kedusha and bring you to their side, to the side of tumah. That's really what they're trying. That's the ultimate goal, what they're trying to do. And we're not supposed to, we have the idea that we're not supposed to eat, we're supposed to eat Pas Yisrael, right? We're not supposed to drink Yayin Nesach, right? For the same reasons, Chazal instituted these things, that we shouldn't eat, we have to eat Pas Yisrael, so we shouldn't get too accustomed being with the Goyim, because then we'll go, okay. So we went to the Sudas Achashverosh, and we were Chayiv Kliya. Interesting thing happened. Haman had a problem with Mordechai, right? He had a problem with Mordechai. So why the next thing you know, he says, okay, I'm going to get rid of all of Klal Yisrael. Where'd that come from? Everyone else was bowing to him. Everyone was doing everything he wanted. He had a problem with this one guy. So what happened? So it's amazing what Haman knew. He understood that the tzaddik is shakal to the whole of Klal Yisrael, right? One tzaddik is equal to all of Klal Yisrael. So he understood if I take down Mordechai, then it'll just be another tzaddik that comes, because when one tzaddik goes down, the Kodesh Baruch Hu sends another tzaddik, right? Right? There's always going to be a tzaddik in the world, right? The Tanya brings it down. It's brought in the Zara. There's always going to be a tzaddik. Haman knew that. So he said, wait a second, it's not going to help me just to get rid of Mordechai, because then the Jews will have another tzaddik, and then they'll come back, and that's why he wanted to get rid of the whole thing. And then we said that the whole idea was, and then when Mordechai yotza min lifnei hamelech v'levush malchus techeles, right? That's what we finished off the other day, right? And then the next pasuk we see that there were a lot of geirim. There were a lot of geirim, right? A lot of people were magayer, a lot of converts. What is the association when Mordechai going in the levush malchus? He takes over Beis Haman, right? He takes over all the money and all the riches and everything. And the next thing you know, people are being Megayah. What is this? You ever think of that? You ever think of that, Yishai? You ever think of that? What's the association? It's the next pasuk. What's going on?
They sense the parables. They sense the...
Right. Yeah. Okay. So on the surface, they sensed the power, and they wanted to root for the winning team. They were going for the winning team, maybe. Okay. No. So Reb Nosson,
the rise of the...
No. So Reb Nosson explained because Esther Amalka and Mordechai were able to always daven a tefillah shebedin. They had a tefillah shebedin. They attributed everything going on to Hashem, not to Haman. You see that Esther and Malka and Mordechai, they never direct anything to anybody. They're only talking to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. They understand that it's all Me'ez Hashem. When it says when Mordechai Yoda, he knew it already. It was Nechta v'Nechtam b'Tabas HaMelech. It doesn't say HaMelech HaChashverosh. It says HaMelech. He understood that. So, and again, Mordechai was able to do that and daven that tefillah shebedin. And then when you daven that tefillah shebedin, you cause the other side to give back a lot. And then you can have what we learned is Yereshenu Kel. You can have a Yerusha, a godly Yerusha. What's the godly Yerusha? That's when you take back all of the stuff that went wrong. For example, they went to the Sudas Achashverosh, right? And they weren't supposed to be there, but people made brachas there. We can assume that people drank their wine, they made a bari priyagofen, right? And they washed when they had their bread, and they benched, and they did the right thing. They did the right, but all that stuff went to the other side because the whole thing was puzzle. The whole suda was puzzle, but they still said things. They still did things. So all of that kedusha, all of that and all of those, and the whole thing with Nebuchadnezzar, and all of the problems, everything was able to come back, and because of that, there was such an amount of kedusha in the world. It was so. People just felt amazed by it, and they came, which caused the gerim, and that's what we were learning up till approximately where we were. Okay, and then let's go on today. Chav Tes. So the Gemara, so the Rebbe is now gonna go on, and he's gonna explain us. Zeh bechinas asmichas shel seder. Al kol seder shlach lecha shesham ksuva v'parshat Tzizit b'seifa. So we have when it came to the Meraglim, right? Right, the Meraglim came to Eretz Yisrael and they came back with their bad report, right? And there were a lot of things. There were a lot of things in that parsha, in Parashah Shelach, right? You have the Nisach Hayayin. You talk about the karbanis, right, and the libations, the wine libations. Right, and we talked about in there. There's the idea of Challah, right? We have Challah. The Parsha teaches us what Challah is, right? Challah taking Hafrashas Challah taking it, okay. And then you also have in there the idea of if there was Avodah Zara, the karbanis and whatever, okay. And then you have the Mekoshesh Eitzim, right? In that same Parsha, right? The guy that was going out on Shabbos specifically to collect the wood, right? In that parsha, the guy went out to collect the wood, right? He was really a good guy. Yeah, he was really a good guy. He did something that wasn't good, but he did it for the right reasons. Why? Because he wanted to show the Jews. At that time they felt that, well, maybe we can get away with this stuff. Maybe it's not so real. So he specifically went out to gather the wood on Shabbos in front of everyone with Eidus and Hasra. right? They warned him, right? And he still did it. And he still did it just to be put to death to show that the Torah is real and this is what's going to happen. Unbelievable. But anyway, and then the next thing you know, we have Tzizit, right? In that same parsha. So what is the connection? How do you connect all of these things together? How do you connect the what do you call it? The Meraglim, and then you connect the wine libations on the Mizbeach, Challah, and then we say we have the Mekoshes Eitzim, all to Tzizit. How do you find? Now watch, Rav Nosson is going to do that. Watch, you ready? Here we go.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Ki Meraglim Pogmu Beretz Yisrael. Because the Meraglim, they started out, let's start with the Meraglim. That was the first thing in the Parsha, right? The Meraglim were Pogmu Beretz Yisrael. They made a Pagam in Eretz Yisrael, right? They liked their covet. And they decided they wanted to keep their honor, and they liked their positions, right? They loved their positions. And then how do you know that they loved their positions and this was the reason why they did what they did? Because the next parsha we have is Kairach, right? So, and Rav Nosson brings an amazing idea with Kairach. He says, why does Kairach attack now? Why now? In other words, we had Kabbalah Satire was a while ago. Why does Kairach now have something to say? Everything was the way it was? So he says like this. He says because Kairach made a calculation. He said, wait a second. Now that the Meraglim came back. And now we're going to be in the desert for 40 years. Now that we're going to be here for 40 years, hey, wait a second. I didn't sign up for that. I thought we're going to go right into Eretz Yisrael. And there was a mistake here. Because really, Cairo said he's the man. He's supposed to have, he's supposed to. And we'll go into Eretz Yisrael, it'll get straightened out. But then when he realized that, hey, wait a second, we're going to be here for the long haul. And these are the Nesiim. And I'm not one of them. Now I'm going to go against Moshe. Unbelievable idea. You hear that? You get it? You understand? Why specifically at that time did he attack? Okay, so the first thing was they were pogmu in Eretz Yisrael. Sheru b'chinas chidush olam shemisham ikra hanigan, like we learned. So we learned that the whole idea of Eretz Yisrael is chidush olam. You see, everything's new, everything's fresh. The whole concept of a machadish betuvay b'chol yom tamid masei bereishis. That concept is most prevalent, is most seen in Eretz Yisrael. You see how everything is always renewing. You see how everything is advancing, and you see it's up, right? We all see it, right? Baruch Hashem, we're zeicher to live here, and we see that. Which is connected, which is the idea of the amun that we have to always have in Chiddush Olam, right? We're new people every day. Every day we can have a new aschal. We can start every time new. We have to remember that because we're not the same people we were yesterday. We're new people today. So if I did something wrong yesterday, it doesn't matter what I did wrong yesterday. Yesterday, of course, I'm going to have to fix it. Of course, I'm going to have to make rectification for what I did wrong. But today, I'm a new person. So what I did yesterday? What does that have anything to do with what I'm doing today? Today, that's Chiddush Olam, right? Chiddush Olam. I'm new. I have to always, and we could do this, Rebbe says, all through the day. You realize you made a mistake, whatever, it's okay, so start now again. Again, you have to keep track of what you did wrong, and you're going to have to make rectification for it. But don't let it hold you back at this moment, right? When you're ready, you'll make tshuva on whatever the thing that you did wrong, you make tshuva on it, and then you can begin. You can go on further, right? If you're always going in the past, you can't go on. And that's the whole idea. That's why this idea of Amunah of Chiddush Olam is such an important idea.
It's in a way having the youth and the strength of a child. So the child is always changing. He doesn't. He's renewing himself all the time.
Exactly.
But in the way, but keep the mind of a grown-up. So the energy and the flow of a child and the mental attitude and understanding of a grown-up.
Yeah. The Rebbe says that when the person gets older, he feels old. He shouldn't feel old. He's supposed to be like a yannick. He used the word yannick. What's a yannick? A youngster for that idea. Because the youngster never remembers it. He just goes, you show him a lollipop. Boom. He's whatever it was, it doesn't matter, right? He banged his head. They cut his knee. Whatever. Here's the lollipop. Oh, everything's all fixed, right? That's how we have to be, right? The same idea. We banged this. We did that. Whatever it is. You just remember them. Okay. And that's the nigun. And we said that's the nigun. That's the nigun of Mashiach. That's the way of living in the way of Mashiach. And why was that the Nigun? Because we said we're in the Parashah of Tzitzit, and the Tzitzit is 72. We can get 72 from the Tzitzit, and the Kina from David Amel, from Mashiach Tzidkenu is going to have 72 strands on his Kina. But Moshe Rabbeinu had such a great koich. We know Baruch Hashem. Rabban Shei Yisrael. Zachal lepoil eitzel Hashem Yisbarach ad shemocha lehem k'may shekosav hayoyim Hashem salachti kidvarecha. Right? Moshe Rabbeinu was able to daven that tefillah of Shebedin like nobody else. Right? He was able to really go to bat with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He went to bat with HaKadosh Baruch Hu and said, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, look, I understand they did these things wrong, but Hashem, aren't you running the world? Don't you run the world, Hashem? How did they do this thing wrong? How did they do it wrong, Hashem? If they did it wrong, obviously, there was a plan for it. In other words, he understood how to talk to the Rebbeinu Shalom in that way, to give credit to everything in the world that goes on is really Meis Hashem. We don't control anything. Anything that we do, it's only because Hashem wanted to do. Anyone who we meet, anyone that says anything to us, anyone that, whatever, it's all a plan from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, right? The Gemara says HaKadosh Baruch Hu is busy all day being mezaveg zevugim, right? What does that mean? He's makes so they'll tell you that means he makes matches, right? He's matching up a Chana with Shimon and Rachel with Yisrael, right? No, but it's more than that. Mezaveg zevugim, if you really look into it, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is figuring out every day who's going to meet who. Who's going to call who's going to meet who, and he plans all these things. So it's not stam that you're on the street and this guy happened to walk out of his house the same time you walked out of his house, right? And it's not stam that this guy decides looking at his phone and I'll call this guy today. It's not stam. Why did he pick you to call you, right? To tell you, and he got you upset, right? Right? Why? Right? It happens, right? There are guys like that, right? You ever get a call like that? Guy calls you up and he starts telling you all that stuff, right? But you have to realize, so wait a second, that was HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So Moshe Rabbeinu was able to daven a tefillah shebedin, right? A tefillah shebedin. What's a tefillah shebedin? Giving back everything to you. Realize it's all Hakol Me'ez Hashem. And then what has Hashem returned? Vayayim Hashem salachti kidvarecha. You want to say something, Eli? No? Okay. Okay, and then it comes to the nigun, shu bechinas nerdi nos and reach. Nerdi nos and reach. So we said that the tzaddik that gives the teichacha, see that the tzaddik Moshe Rabbeinu davens to HaKadosh Baruch Hu with tefillah shebedin, but he also knows how to give the teichacha, to give the rebuke to Klal Yisrael in a way that Klal Yisrael will benefit by the rebuke. See that the problem is today. Really, we don't necessarily know how to give rebuke. We do things, most of the time people give rebuke out of anger, right? I saw this guy do this thing, that's wrong. Wait, what is it? Is it your Torah? Hey, wait a second. He did that wrong. Do you understand his circumstances that he's in? Do we understand anything? We said that the Rebbeinu Shalom is Mekai Mai Shalom, Ve'ena Oila Mekai Mai. Remember we learned that a few weeks ago, right? HaKadosh Baruch Hu is everything in the world. He understands everything. Why should I get upset, right? I'm just reviewing a couple of things that we learned over the time. But then, Nerdi Nasan Reach. What's Nerdi Nasan Reach? Nerdi Nasan Reach means that when, like we said before, when a person realizes he did something wrong, put that aside. Put that thing that he did wrong aside, and don't deal with it until you're ready to deal with it. And that's what it means, nerdi nasan reach. In other words, the tzaddik, when he gives the teichacha in that proper way to help the person, he's not looking at the goof of the person, the body, the physicality of the person. He sees the neshama of the person, right? And he's talking to the neshama of the person. He's not talking to the goof. You understand the difference? When you talk to the neshama, you talk in a different way. So then when you do that, when you can talk to the neshama, so then what you're doing is you can cause that the person that you're giving the rebuke to doesn't become very defensive, right? Because if you give, you want to say something?
Yeah, if I can.
Please. So, this is a chabura. I ask you to say something.
So tzaddik is able to give techacha because, for instance, Rabbi Yossi would give techacha this way. He would sit down next to a person, right? And he would say, oh, you know what this you did on this and this day, this you did on this and this day, and he'd recount all the sins that this fellow had, and the fellow would realize he's really talking about him, and then he didn't feel attacked. He realized that the tzaddik was framing it this way because he was him, right? I was thinking, why does the tzaddik know you the way he knows you? Because he knows himself, and he is you. Right? In other words, Moshe was Kol all the neshamas.
All neshamas,
right?
the
And he was the tzaddik of tzaddikim because he knew everybody.
Yeah.
So a tzaddik doesn't look at you and judge you like, but he knows your mind better than you know your mind.
Yeah, emes.
Right? Which is kind of scary, right? Because you meet somebody like this and they can talk to you.
Because he sees the neshama.
Mamash.
He sees the neshama. He's not looking at the goof. He's looking at the neshama. He sees the rectifications the neshama needs to make.
Exactly. We see each other. We're in these bags of bones and flesh, and we don't see that we're really all one.
That's it,
He's
exactly.
a very handsome guy. I don't see bones and flesh.
But the tzaddik sees.
The tzaddik sees right through, and he sees the neshama.
I want to find a tzaddik that can see me.
One second. Rav Moshe Weinberger told me many times. He said, if you ever have to give rebuke to somebody, never talk to them directly. Never talk to them directly. You can go over and say, hey, I just learned the halacha the other day. I'm so excited about what I just learned. And can I share with you a dvar halacha? And you just say the dvar halacha, and you don't tell them anything. And let the person perceive on their own, wait a second, I just did that thing wrong. And that's such a different way than if you go over and say, you did this wrong. You tell me I did this wrong, so I become very defensive, and I'll get upset at you. Right? That's the way it goes. But if you tell the person, and you tell it to the person in a way that they can perceive they made the mistake on their own, that's very beneficial. Okay, right? I think that's what you were saying too, right?
That's it.
So a good technique that we can use today.
But we have to be really careful, right? Because the antenna is high, right? So if you're doing it dafka this way, and people perceive that you're doing it this way, they'll still get resistance.
Mm-hmm. You will, but you're not attacking them. You're not talking to them. You're talking to another person. You're not talking directly to the person. You have a better chance.
For sure.
Better chance. Okay.
But usually what I also see is if somebody did something wrong, and I'm privileged to see that thing, there's something in me.
Because again, the Baal Shem Tov says you can only see something wrong if you have a part in that thing yourself.
Right.
Now you would never have seen it. Yes. So that's why you can give over the halacha. You can learn what I learned because I made that mistake and this and that. Yeah, okay. Either whatever. V'amevin yavin. Okay. Bechinas slichas havoinais kenav. Okay. Nismach miyad lezeh parshas nesachim. And therefore, right away you have the parshas nesachim. Wait a second. Right away, the Torah says you have this idea of the Meraglim, and you have the Pegam in Chiddush Olam in Eretz Yisrael, right? And the next thing you know, we're talking about the Nesachim, with the wine libations, with the Karbonis. What is the connection? So look what Rav Nassan says. Dain lenasech yayin ala Karbonis was Ikar Ashir. So whenever in the Beis Hamikdash, Emetz Hashem will see this very, very soon, and the karbanos were being sacrificed. So during that time, that's when they would pour the wine, and then the Leviim would do their shira specifically at that time. They would sing their song while the wine was being put onto the karbanos. So you see the connection of wine and song. Wine and song, okay? Ki ein ayimrim shir ela ala yayin, because you don't say shir unless you have wine, and that's what we learned that we have when benching is a kind of shir too, a song. Whenever we say birchat hamazon, that's a song also, right? That some people like to sing it in a song actually for that reason, right? And that's why you're supposed to have a kais of yayin, because again, there's no shira unless you have yayin, right? All right. Okay. Shezeh bechinas hamshachas hashir v'anigan shoimim oisei al hayayin daik, and that's the shir, the song that was done specifically connection with wine. Shul bechinas tikkun beira medama, as we learned, that's I could fix my medama. I could rectify my thought process. Right? The people are, we run our lives based on what we imagine. Right? We imagine things. And then we wind up doing things based on what we imagine. A person imagines that if I go to this place, wow, it's going to be great over there. So he's imagining. Then the next thing you know, he's there because he imagined that it was going to be great to go over there. If he thinks if I'm going to go there, it's going to be terrible, he's never going to go there, right? right? So notice our imagination, it really, really drives us, all of us, in different ways, right? And we said that the whole idea of the yayin can be mesakin the kayach hamedama, because sometimes when the person has a little wine, the wine can, so to say, help him think with some clarity. When he starts with a little bit of wine, the wine can give a person a little clarity also. Okay, if the person is a proper thinking person, and the wine will elevate him rather than the wine will knock him down. Wine has the two properties. It can elevate a person, like we said, or it can knock the person down. So if the person is drinking the wine, and he's recognized he made the bracha, and he understands he's doing it for a mitzvah, right? Like you make kiddush, right? So that's a mitzvah. I'm not drinking wine because I want to drink wine. I'm making kiddush. There's a testimony going on here, right? I have my wine, right? And I drink my wine for that reason. And then again, think about it. Look how we worked it out. Really, you don't need wine. You don't need wine to make kiddush, right? You don't need wine, right? The Gemara says if you don't have, if you're in in a situation you don't have wine, you can make kiddush over your challah also, right? If you didn't have challah, you can use something else. It doesn't have to. But why is wine the preferable thing? Because again, I'm saying my edus, right? My testimony. Right, Yom Hashishi vayechulu hashemayim v'aretz, right, v'sham b'nei Yisrael Shabbos, right, and then I drink my wine because again I made that statement, that proclamation, and now I can drink the wine. The wine can help me think and be misakin my medama. You understand? Does it make sense? Any questions on that? No? Okay. Wow. Well, you guys are nice guys here today. Wow.
You're just a great teacher.
No, yeah, sure. Okay. Yeah, okay. Bechinas yayin ha-mesameach. Okay, and that's what the idea, the wine can bring simcha to a person. Again, if you drink the wine in the right way, the wine can bring us simcha. Okay? Now, Valkein nismach lezeh Parashas Challah. Okay, so now we understand why we had wine. Because again, the medame, the kayach medame from the Meraglim, they were thinking, well, Eretz Yisrael, they saw a lot of funerals. Rashi tells us, right? And they saw these giant fruits and these giant people, and they said, "Whoa, this we can't." They were imagining we can't overcome this. It's an imagination. We can't overcome this. But wait a second, weren't you just in Mitzrayim, a little while ago, and you saw Kriyas Yamsuf and the Kabbalah Satayra, the mountain was over your like Kayach HaMedama, you understand? So now that's why the Torah says, so Rav Nosson is saying, that's why right after that, HaKadosh Baruch Hu teaches us this thing about wine, and what wine can be used to bring simcha, to clarify the mind, right, to fix the Kayach HaMedama. So now we understand the connection of Yayin and why that came after that. Now let's talk about Challah, right? So now you have the Mitzvah of Challah, Parashas Challah, right? What's a Parashas Challah? When a lady makes her Challah and she uses I know in America it was about 5 pounds of flour. How many kilos is that? That's like 2.5 kilos.
A little less.
What?
A little less. But about that.
Something like that. With 2.5 kilos for sure, she'll have to do a Parashas Challah.
Sfaradi, it's a bit less.
What?
For the Sfaradi, it's a bit less. It's 1 kilo, 660.
Okay, all right, either way. So you have this idea, to take the challah off, okay? Shu bechinas bias Eretz Yisrael. That's an idea of coming into Eretz Yisrael. It's an interesting thing, right? In other words, we had a lot of mitzvahs that were tali ba'aretz, right? With Shemitah and all the things that are tali ba'aretz. Challah was something when it came into Eretz Yisrael, before we were Yairish anything, before we conquered anything, we already had the mitzvah of Challah. Challah came into the fact because we came into Eretz Yisrael. Did you know that? P.S. Eretz Yisrael, because we came into Eretz Yisrael, even before we did anything, that mitzvah took effect right away just because we stepped foot into Eretz Yisrael. Did you know that? You knew that. Okay, good. K'mayshe kasav b'vayachem el haaretz. B'vayachem el haaretz. It doesn't say when you'll be Yairish the land. B'vayachem, when you come in to the land, that's when you'll start this mitzvah of Challah. Shenischayvu tekiv nisasam l'Eretz Yisrael k'meisha perish Rashi sham. Rashi explains that over there. If you take a look, that it was different than all the other mitzvahs totally baris because this mitzvah took place right away. So now, Okay, so now let's continue. So we said the main song comes from Eretz Yisrael because again in Eretz Yisrael you fix your medame, right? In Eretz Yisrael you see the Chiddush Ha'olam, which puts the person in the right mind frame, right? You see Chiddush Ha'olam, you know I'm new, everything's fresh. That's connected to the Nigun. Bechinas Yisrael Shu Tikkun Hamachal of Hamazon Lachnia Mezayna de Gufa. And that's the idea of being able to, when a person can fix the medama, because he understands it's this thing of chiddush ha'olam, so then he can be mesakin his machal, his food when he eats, and he can make the food, rather than being food to satiate just the body, but it can be mezayna de nishmasa. It can actually become soul food for him. Real soul food. That's what real soul food is. When you eat and you want to satiate your neshama by the food, not necessarily the guf. Interesting idea. So where did the idea of gorging, of delicacies and all of the things that people the overeating and all this, where did it come from? Where did this come from? The Ched of Adam Arishon and Chava, when they ate from the Eitz Hadas Taivarah, they brought this idea before they ate from that tree. People would eat only for the sake of satiating the neshama, but they introduced this idea. Yeah, it all goes back to that. All goes back to the Nachash Hakadmaini. Bechinas mezayne de guf vatikan ayedei chala sheneschayvim bechris nasan le'eretz Yisrael daika shemisham hanigun. Because that's when you come, you can enter the nigun. You can enter this idea of chiddush ha'olam right when you come into Eretz Yisrael. You see the new, the ischachas, and you know that I'm new and I can be new and that everything is going to be okay. And the person takes on an optimistic view. Instead of being pessimistic, we can take on optimism. And that's the whole point of Eretz Yisrael, is optimistic. Everything will be okay. Everything is going to be okay. We're moving in the right direction. Okay,
and everything is okay.
Everything is okay, and it's going to get, and it's always getting better. It's always getting better. It's always getting better. He kilkula chalosai shaloilam lefichach tifresh challah. Look at this idea. He kilkula chalosai shaloilam. He caused this idea of destruction to the world. Lefichach tifresh challah. Therefore, HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave the mitzvah of Challah to take over because he caused this idea of destruction in the world. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives this mitzvah of Challah to take care of Chalasai Shalaylam, the mitzvah of Challah. Is that a beautiful play on words? No, but it's amazing. No, I marvel at Rav Nosson how his language. And he was able to take the words and just make this most beautiful tapestry of this. Nimsa. Shachalahi tikkun ched adam arishon. So, and again, it makes sense. The ladies, that's the mitzvah incumbent upon the ladies. They bake the challah. That's their mitzvah of Parashah Challah, right? Because again, what Chava convinced Adam to eat from the tree. So the ladies were the one that started, so therefore they caused the chalasei shalaylam, therefore they have the mitzvah specifically of challah. Okay, it's a cute thing, right? Okay. Hainu. Tikkun pegam achila, pegam mezayna de gufa. It's fixing the idea of achila, the pegam, the mezayna of the food, and that's why we take the afrashas challah, that you take the challah off. I would like to say it's almost like this, when you have the mitzvah of bikurim, right? So what was the mitzvah of bikurim? The farmer took the first fruits, right? The first grapes, the first figs, the first olives. They're very special because he worked hard on the field, and he took those first fruits that really he would like to enjoy. But he took those specifically, brought those up to the base of it. Okay, fine. So here the lady is working on the challah, and now she finishes it. The first thing she does now, she makes the dough. Instead of starts braiding her challah. No, I got to take off my challah. And maybe it was...
We're the people of delayed gratification.
Yeah.
Don't grab. Just wait a minute.
Yeah, No. But I thought about that when I was looking it over. I thought about the connection, the Purim and also the Challah. It's a similar idea. You like the associate? Okay, good. Oh, Baruch Hashem. Okay, good. Okay, Baruch Hashem. Okay. Ki ayidei shemafrish and Challah zoichin shia lechem shu mazayin bebechinas mezayin dishmasa. Oh, because again, when you take, and that's the whole idea of Pas Yisrael, because then they'll take off the Challah. So then it becomes mezayined in Ishmasa, right? Really, this is a new reason now, right? The whole idea why Chazal tell us they don't really mention this idea of challah, but here we're learning something else. If it's a Jewish baker that baked it, whether it was a lady or a man, it doesn't matter. They'll take off challah. If it was in a bakery, they'll take it. Now when you take off challah, you're taking off the taiva of the achila from the bread. And you're making it more mezayined than ishmasa by that fact, okay? Like it says that in Mishlei that the tzaddik is oicha l'sayveya nafshay. The tzaddik eats to satiate his nefesh. Like the Tanya says, what are we talking about? The nefesh elikus, right? The nefesh elikus, the neshama, and that's what the tzaddik is eating for that reason. Also, wait a second. Now, what's the next thing in the parsha? In Parashah Shelach, you have Avodah Zara. Shu tikun pegam emunah. So what was Avodah Zara? A person doesn't have emunah in Hashem, so he feels, listen, I like to do this and that and the other thing. The Torah says I can't do this, but this God says I can do what I want to do. That's what Chazal tell us is the whole reason why Avodah Zara came up right in the first place. Right? Hashem says, don't do this. Oh, but this God says I can do what I want to do. Oh, so I'll sign up for that God. Right? Because again, there's the main nigun. And the main way a person can fix his mind and fix the kayach hamedama is through the idea of being masake and emunah. How do you be masake and emunah? Like we said, you can use the wine by drinking the wine to be misaki in the medama, and then of course that can make a tikkun for the begam in emuna, right? Because you can increase your emuna. Okay, v'achakach nismach parshas mekoishesh eitzim, right? We have the parsha of the guy that collected the wood. So what's that? Meaning kedusha Shabbos kodesh. V'cholu mikola yomim v'azmanim hamekudoshim shekula v'bechinas hamshachas emuna kedosha. Shabbos is the main thing of emunah, right? Right? We believe that everything is run by HaKadosh Baruch Hu. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says we don't work on Shabbos and everything's going to be okay. And we trust in the Rebbeinu Shalom that everything's going to be okay. We don't need our phones. We don't need to see what's on the news, right? We don't need anything, right? We trust HaKadosh Baruch Hu is taking care of the world, and He always does, and He always will. But we demonstrate it most on Shabbos, I believe, right? I think so. Because we're not involved with worldly things. It's us and HaKadosh Baruch Hu, us with our families, our friends, shul, davening. It's all a day of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's a day of Emunah. Shabbos is a day of Emunah. Nismach, okay, Parashas Tzitzis, and after that you get the Parashah of Tzitzis. He calls that Kol Mitzvah Tzitzis. All of this is included in the Mitzvah of Tzitzis. Everything we discussed now is all found in Tzitzis. So in other words, HaKadosh Baruch Hu set the Parsha up in this way, that first you will have the Meraglim, and then you'll have the idea of the Nisach Yayin, of the wine libations. Then you're going to have the idea of the what do you call it, the Avodah Zara. No, Challah, Avodah Zara, and then you have, right after that, you have the idea of Tzitzis. So how do you put this all together? Look at this. V'zeh shekosav Admar Zal, Rabbi Nachman in lesson Kufay and Zayin, in lesson 177, Shevayoyma Hashem salachti kivarecha, Roshei Tevis Kaisi. Roshei Tevis is Kaisi. Vayoyma Hashem salachti kivarecha Kaisi. Ki atzadikim yecholim l'sloyach avoynes ayidei sheyasam yayin. The tzadikim, via them drinking wine, they can cause a mechila for avoynes. They can fix a lot of problems with them drinking wine. Because again, we said, like you said before, Ali, about the Rebbe of Zushya. The Rebbe of Zushya always spoke in that way. He never mentioned, he never said I. He always said Zushya. He would always do that. Amazing, amazing. The brother of the holy Naim Elimelech. What a tzaddik. Oh, Baruch Hashem. I made it to Anapoli a couple of times. Baruch Hashem, Baruch Hashem. Yeah, what a special place. Wow, Mamish, what a special place. Anyway, so again, via the tzaddik, he can drink wine, and via the tzaddik drinking wine, he sips that wine, he can have that clarity and fix the medama, but not only for himself, he can fix the medama for others as well. So the tzaddik has that ability, and that's really what the Rebbe Zushi was doing. In your example, he would say, Zushi did this, Zushi did that, Zushi did this, and that, and the other thing. And I always, when I learned about the Rebbe Zushi, what was he doing? He was trying to befriend the person. That's really what he was trying to do. He was trying to befriend this person. So, because when a sinner sees a tzaddik, he says, I have no connection to the tzaddik. I'm me. Wow, he's a great tzaddik. So he would sit down and Zushya did this and say, wow, really, Rabbi? You did this? You did that? Oh, and then he'll be open to listen to what the rabbi has to say, because he has some kind of a connection, I mean, I believe that's the reason why, like today, sometimes you have Rebbeim, they'll play baseball with kids and they'll play this, because again, they not because they want to play baseball, but they want to have some kind of connection with their students. They want to do something that the students do, so that they feel that there's some kind of a connection. My Rebbe does that too. Oh, so he's a cool guy. Let me hear what he has to say. And it was great. I mean, I remember when I had my Rebbeim in school, we weren't allowed to have baseball cards in school. But I had a Rebbe that would always talk to us about baseball cards. We weren't allowed to have them. We all had the baseball cards. We all had them, but we weren't allowed. It was contraband. So he would talk to us about. So again, it helped us. Feel a connection that we love our cards, and he had some kind of connections with. Okay. Again,
when the tzaddik brings himself on a lower level, so that
then you feel it. You have a connection. You have that connection.
Rabbi Nachman played chess.
Rabbi Nachman played chess.
All kinds of games.
Yeah, he played. Rabbi Nachman went to Uman. He went to Uman because the heads of the Haskalah, the Enlightened movement, a lot of them, because Uman was an industrial city, and you had a lot of the heads of the Haskalah were there, and Rabbi Nachman went there specifically to play chess with these guys, and we don't know what he accomplished and why he did that, but again, he wanted to show that, hey, look, you guys like to play chess, I like to play chess also. And he would actually play chess with them, and who knows, maybe he brought some of them back, who knows.
They did tshuva, right? I think it's...
Well, I don't know that, but again...
They came to the funeral, and they were like crying.
Yeah. Okay, I don't know what happened in the end with all of them, but there was a reason. We're going to go with the reason that he what do you call it, was actually playing the game with them. Okay. So now Shayideze Nimshach Nigun, and that's how you can get Nigun. And now we're going to be finishing Halacha. Hey, this is Mamash so exciting. Shayideze Nimshach Slichas Havayna. It's true that you can have a forgiveness for your sin. Balkain Nimsa Acha Parshas Zois Parshas Nichse Yayin. And therefore we have the idea of this, the wine libation Hilchas Tzitzis Halacha Vav Nichla BeHilchas Netilas Yadayim Shachris Halacha Dalet. So we already learned that. Rav Nosson says we're in Halacha Hey, but he already put into Hilchas Netilas Yadayim Shachris Halacha Dalet, and the things with tzitzis, we can always go back to our lessons in that. And the Mitzvah Hashem, we're finishing now Halacha Hey. This was a long trek, so Baruch Hashem, Mazel Tov to everybody.